What's up, everybody? This is Josiah. Welcome to another episode. Really excited to chat with this buddy here. Off mic, we had to just recap because it's been nearly a year at the time of this recording. Let me just emphasize that a lot of time goes by in between these conversations, as fun as they are. I never know when something's going to come up, but I always hope it's a treat for you guys. But I had to recap with life with this friend. I hadn't talked to her, hadn't seen her since we first met on the set of Insecure, and she was a great asset to the PA team, to the COVID PA team. She was a lot of fun to work with, and she's gotten into a lot of amazing projects since. So we're just going to jump in, and I want you guys to help me welcome writer, director Toryn Seabrooks. Toryn, welcome.
Thank you so much, Josiah. It's literally an honor to be on this with you. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Here, all right, let's jump in. You're so welcome. Tell the people a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, and did you have any favorite TV or films coming up, since we're talking about film today? All day, every day, guys. Y'all know what it is.
Oh gosh. I can name the top 5 possibly, but there are just so many. But I grew up in Los Angeles, California, in Woodland Hills. My parents met at Paramount, so Hollywood has kind of been in my life forever.
Wow.
I've always gravitated towards film and loved TV and just all of it, because that's just kind of been my world. But when I was growing up, God, I loved Sesame Street and Little Bear and That's So Raven, So Weird, Powerpuff Girls, just a lot of stuff on Disney Channel and Cartoon Network, just pretty much everything on either of those channels. Movies. I love Black comedy and social satire, so anything that falls under that umbrella is right up my alley. Raising Arizona, Slumdog Millionaire, Rocky, Little Miss Sunshine, my gosh, Billy Elliot are some of my favorite movies. And I mean, there's so many incredible films and stories, but
yeah.
I love Muriel's Wedding is also one of my favorite films. I don't know if you've seen that, but
no.
with Toni Collette.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was
I'm
back
just getting into her work nowadays with like I didn't see it, but like Hereditary and like Knives Out. I loved her in that. So okay.
Yeah. And this one is it's a different vibe because it's a comedy, and she's just this goofy woman who wants to get married, and in order to get married she has to get a visa or just marry the super handsome guy. But I really love stories that explore underdogs and just how they just defy whatever odds are against them to get to where they want to go. So
yeah. Nice. Now, in fact, nowadays, do you gravitate toward one over the other, or do you still love TV shows and movies equally?
I think film has a special place in my heart. I just love being in a theater. So I feel like you can't get that with TV. It's just, you just have different experiences. But I love the world of TV because I feel like it allows story to just be so much more just emphasized and focused on, or the story, or I don't know, rather you can expand the characters and their worlds a little bit more and kind of go deeper in a way that you don't really have the access to in film, I think.
I feel
so you. I really appreciate both art forms, but yeah, I think film, if I had to choose, that would be it, just in the film world.
Nice. Yeah, because it's like TV, it's like they're your neighbors. And I guess maybe with film, it's like maybe it's summer camp. Like it's a long length of time, but it's limited.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know?
Yeah.
So it's okay. I
Yeah.
dig that. I feel it. That's cool. Do you know? Can you pinpoint when you knew you were a writer and when you knew you wanted to make films for a living?
That is a great question. Film and just the industry, I feel, have just always been in my life. So I think that my storytelling has been influenced by what I've seen, especially behind the scenes. So
Hmm.
I think that I can you repeat the question real quick? Because I'm
Sure.
on a bit of a
Yeah.
tangent in my head.
No, it's okay. Can you pinpoint when you knew you wanted to be a writer? And can
Uh-huh.
you also pinpoint, maybe even before that, then, when you wanted to make films for a living?
So, okay, I feel like definitively I decided film was what I wanted to do in college when I made my first short film. And when I applied to NYU, I really didn't even know what I wanted to do or if I wanted to be a
Mm,
director or an actor. I kind of was exploring acting originally, and then
okay.
um, directing just was more interesting to me. And
Hmm.
I just fell in love with working with actors and working and developing story. So, but I do think that kind of culminated for me in school. So I made a short film about a mother who had just uh, lost her kid to a school shooting, and was celebrating the kid's birthday, and just showing that she wasn't able to have the kid there because the news
Mm,
was on, and we're able to see
yeah,
the
powerful.
aftermath of a shooting. So when I did that, that was kind of when I realized, like, okay, I've got something here. And but but yeah, I don't know. I feel like writing has just always I've been writing since I was 6 or 7, like
Hmm.
writing short stories. Um, and my dad is a writer, so that's kind of also influenced
That's
just
awesome.
my craft. So yeah, I really I can't remember a time where I was like, okay, this is when I'm a writer. Um, but I do feel like when I decided I wanted to be a director was in school.
That's cool. It suddenly reminded me of that quote from Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, where he's like, "You merely adopted the shadows. I was born in it." So it's like we all adopted screenwriting, but it sounds like Toryn was just born into this thing. I think
You know,
that's
that's
what it
a good way to
sounds like.
say it. Hey, I will embrace and accept all of that. But yeah, I feel kind of
That's cool.
that's kind of how I've tried to look at it a bit too. That it's like you're in the right industry, you're supposed
Yeah.
to be here. So, but yeah.
Was it what was it like? Any standout memory of growing up with your parents in that world? Since like you said, if I heard you right, they met on at Paramount. That's pretty cool. So they're already in the industry. Are there any other memories that stand out about just being surrounded by creativity like that in a cinematic way, trickling down from your parents?
Oh, always. I mean, my dad started working on In Living Color. I believe that was his, if I'm not
Wow,
mistaken,
cool,
that was his first writer's
legendary.
gig. Yeah, which was also really cool. So I was and he also the reason why he was at Paramount was because he was selected for a Eddie Murphy's fellowship that he had at the time. He was one of very few Black writers that was brought onto the lot. And because
Wow.
of it, they said that he could go on to see like any show that he could go kind of tour the lot and like look at whatever show he wanted.
Okay.
um, so he chose Star Trek, and my mom
Nice.
was the assistant for the EP at the time, or
Okay.
the showrunner. And she was just prompted about the writers that were stopping by and got his script. And and they met,
That's cool.
and I mean, I know that that's like before I was here, but I feel like after that, my dad did do some short films. So like I was on set a lot just as a kid, just either because of being in LA and like, my parents did try to get me into acting. So
Okay.
I would go to auditions and stuff, but trying to think of, if is that answering the question? Because I feel like I'm
Yeah.
going on a bit of a tangent.
No, it is. No, tangents are welcome as well. But no, it's because a lot of people don't have that experience. But like some were not growing up in LA. Like, I was, if you remember, I'm from Maryland. I wasn't born and raised in LA
Yeah,
when we met. Better
right.
yet, and then some people, both parents might not even be in the industry. So I find that, so
Exactly.
that's cool. That's unique. That's different.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel I've recognized that slowly over time, that that's not everybody's path,
Right.
especially in this industry, and that I have been incredibly blessed to just kind of be placed in this world, and it just happens to be where I want my career to be. Um, so I feel like, just from the very beginning, because my dad, he went to school with Anthony Anderson and Isaiah Washington, and
Wow.
and, um, and they were at like my second birthday party, or like one of my birthday parties when I was little, and they
Wow.
just around. So I just
That's neat.
and I didn't know like they were family friends, so I didn't realize
I
kind of
feel you.
what like I didn't realize my cousin is also married to Kenya Barris, and
Okay.
so yeah, so and I that's actually uh that's how I got onto Grownish initially.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So he really stuck his neck out for me and got me on the show. And I started as a writer's PA. And the showrunner, who is incredible, her name's Julie Bean,
Mm.
said that she needed an assistant. She's like, I'd much rather a brilliant woman like you
Hey,
helping me rather than carrying coffees.
love it.
So she elevated me, and really was like patient and awesome with just me being a first time showrunner's assistant. And I got to see Grownish from like being built from the ground up, which was cool.
Hmm.
The writer's room develop, and just seeing Kenya in action, and just kind of watching like the actors develop the characters. And yeah, so again, I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but
All good.
uh, basically just from the early stages of just my life, I feel like being on set has just kind of always made its way into my world. I do remember visiting my dad on set. I don't know if because he also worked on Hanging with Mr. Cooper
Oh, that was a favorite of mine growing up.
and
That's so cool.
oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, I was hyped because I think it's on Hulu now, so you can relive it actually. So I was like, yo, I remember this as a kid. So that's neat.
that's dope. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like being able to be on set just for those reasons, um, and meeting actors and kind of like, being able to see tapings. I was taken to American Idol when I was like 11, just
Wow.
to, um, just, and I feel like LA kind of like it is the place where you can be immersed in Hollywood in
Of
that way.
course.
And it's not, um, I don't want to sound ignorant, but it's just it's a part of the war, it's a part of the culture.
No,
So
it is. Yeah. Yeah.
like it's not like it's nothing special, but it's like it's not like it's in your face, so you're not, it's not glamorized or I don't know, I'm seeing behind the curtain. So I don't,
Yeah.
all the bells and whistles aren't really, and like the allure of Hollywood is kind of gone, because it's like, oh, I see how everything's done and I see how everything's
Right.
made. So um that whole being like starstruck and kind of being like, or just feeling like
Yeah.
you're separate from the world has kind of, I think, been the effect of seeing the behind the scenes of Hollywood and kind of always seeing behind the scenes. So
That's cool because it's like I wonder if it like makes it and of course feel free to jump in with your own experience. I wonder if it irons out any kinks when it comes to meeting powerful people when you're on a new project or you're up for something, keeps things from being maybe awkward, maybe things are a little bit more genuine or more cards on the table as opposed to maybe with me, again, I was a transplant like most people from LA. I'm a transplant, so depending on your personality, you
yeah,
could get I my funny thing is, in near as I can tell, no one has contradicted me. I find that I actually become more zen when I've been in stars' presence and things. Like I had the opportunity to work on, I think I told you, Blackish, which was
uh-huh,
cool, and things, and got to, Anthony Anderson's, joking with everybody, giving everybody a hard time. And it's in my mind, I'm like, wow, that's really like, that's Anthony. But for whatever, but thankfully,
yeah,
I don't make it, because he's still got to work, or
yeah,
Viola Davis, I told you about that experience. They still got to work, and I don't want to be some type of stumbling block.
right,
And but other people could, understandably, it's your idol, get starstruck. But there I was going on a little bit of a tangent. I just wonder
sure,
if it just makes things more organic. You
yeah.
seeing behind the curtain, like you said, and people that you're rubbing elbows with, do I guess they get to just be people and you get to just focus on the work?
I think so. That's really what I try to focus on to not make it weird. Because I do recognize that a lot of people I've worked with have been put on such a massive pedestal that people don't treat them like human beings. And at the end of the day, we are human beings and all deserve to be treated with respect and to be seen for who we are and not like the
Mm-hmm.
image that's portrayed. Um, so I again just try to like get to know the person when I am in that space, or if I'm working, like I just try to, recognize like I'm here to do a job, they're here to do a job, and are they cool to work with? Like, are they fun to be around as just
Right.
human, you know? Um, because everybody has started from somewhere at some point, and at
Mm-hmm.
one point they were exactly where I am or where you are, and we know that they've established an incredible career, hence why they have the reputation that they have. But at the core of it, they started somewhere.
Yeah.
And yeah, so but I do think that that helps to break the ice sometimes by just not trying to come at it from an angle of like I'm trying to get something from you, or I want to use you to like have street cred, or like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Cloud or something.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Nice. That's a cool advantage because you don't meet, or certainly I didn't. Let me include my experience with the limited of time that I was in LA. I didn't meet a lot of people my age or black folk coming into the industry with your experience. So that, so we all had to, like most people, yeah, you had to learn, be respectful, don't make it weird or anything. We didn't have that unique viewpoint of like, oh no, these are already people. Like you got to tell yourself, or certainly in my position sometimes, I don't want to
yeah,
make it weird for, or you're used to all of the pressure being on you. Like we'll get into it, but like in my experience when I worked with Alfonso on America's Funniest Videos, and I'm sure you picked up on this, he'll talk to anybody.
yeah,
Actually, he'll just kind of like you have a little bit of a break and you're talking, and he'll just kind of look your way and like kind of include you. And
uh-huh,
everyone doesn't do that,
hmm,
which is fine, which is their prerogative. But it's just
yeah,
things like that can, if someone does that, that can put you on the spot as someone on crew or someone who's not used to that, to be
yeah,
like, okay, let me be cool, because in your mind,
Absolutely.
you hope they'll acknowledge you, and then when they do, you hope that it's a cool experience and it's not weird. So that's neat. I like that
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz example you used of like seeing behind the curtain at a young age as opposed to other people kind of gives you that unique advantage to see the work for what it is and see these talented people for the workers they are as well. It's like we're all on the same team, and it sounds like it makes for a really good work experience. Everyone's is different, so yours is so unique, and that's I really think that's cool. That's
Thank
great.
you. Yeah, I appreciate the acknowledgement for sure. It's definitely been useful and very important in terms of relationships that I've built along the way, and uh, just continuing to build relationships because um, yeah, I feel that we're all in this industry because we love the work, or I would
Yeah.
want to hope that that's why we're here, or we love storytelling, or we
Hmm.
love, inspiring others. And I feel like recognizing that at the beginning and just having that common respect between you and whoever you're working with is a way to kind of break that ice and to kind of get like the superstar or the
Kind of get
that
the
stuff.
stars out of your eyes, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Because I think we create the most authentic and genuine work when we're able to just relax and be ourselves, and
Hmm.
and not be being just not performing for
Yeah, or walking on
others.
eggshells a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Well
Um,
said.
yeah.
That's
Thank you.
great. Yeah. Here, let's take a quick break from the glamorousness of it all, so to speak, to ask you what's end game for
The end.
you. Yeah, what showrunner, film director, producer, triple threat.
Wow,
What's it look like for you? What do you want to do?
all of the above. Um, Simply, I feel that being a film director is my calling. Feel that directing is what I feel the most passionate about. Uh, and writing is a close second. I do write and direct, and I do produce. Um, but if I were to really say I'm one of these things, then directing would definitely be
Yeah.
my. Mhm.
What is it about directing that just captures your imagination and you're like, that's me?
Oh gosh, I just love the world of filmmaking in general. I love that uh that directing specifically is about one's perspective of the world and how one sees the world, and being able to kind of take a snapshot of that exactly how you see it and being able to share that with others, and that perspective can exist for the rest of time because it's recorded, because uh it's it's for everyone to see and enjoy once it's out there,
Yeah.
and it's the one medium where you can tell your truth however you want to speak it, and involve so many other mediums that can contribute to your truth. Uh, so film includes, I mean, music and um, and location scouting and traveling and writing and casting and working with actors and developing relationships and like bringing a story to life, and just the whole process of like bringing a story that's in one's mind and then actually
Yeah.
putting it out there, um, is just really exciting to me, which is why I follow just other directors who have just existed throughout time and um, who have shaped culture because of their films, or who have shaped um, just groups of people and how they view the world because of their films. Um, all filmmaking, documentary, just any type of filmmaking I feel has that ability, and I think directors are at the helm. They're at the forefront of that. So um if you don't have a good director on set who doesn't know what they're doing, you don't really have a successful you need someone to have the
Yeah,
vision,
yeah.
because
The
if they don't have the vision, nobody else really knows, and they're
right.
trying to like, you know, figure it
Yeah.
out.
Because you're reminding me of one of my favorite shows is Better Call Saul,
Mhm.
and that's one you like that show too.
Gilligan, just in
He's
general.
the goat.
Yeah,
He's
he is.
just he'll save
Yeah.
cinema if we let him. um, but he's what's her face? Ray Seahorn, who plays Kim Wexler.
Uh-huh.
She I don't remember which one it was, but she directed an episode this uh sheds tear final season, Better Call Saul. But she had the opportunity to direct, and I think it was her directorial debut. And she was hinting at what you just said about how it's location scouting and you need a vision. And she was just talking about the unique perspective and lessons she learned moving from being an actress to then being the director and having all the answers to those
Yeah.
questions. She's like, usually I'd be asking, like, how will my costuming fit into the location or something about sound or the blocking, etc. This time she was on the other side, and her co-stars were asking her those questions, and her beautiful crew was asking her those questions. So you just reminded me of that unique
Yeah,
distinction.
absolutely. Yeah, I feel that the strongest directors have been or I feel that in order to be a good director, it really helps to understand the actor's process and the actor's world and what it's like to be an actor. I don't think it's absolutely necessary for a director to have that, you know, that level of expertise or knowledge,
Hmm.
but I think it's really helpful to the actor director relationship if there's an understanding. So, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Do you, off the top of your head, can you list off some of your favorite directors?
Oh my God, Stanley Kubrick, um,
Mm,
Ava DuVernay for so many reasons,
right. Phew.
Steven Spielberg, um, Spike Lee, um, Hitchcock, um, just for like what they have contributed to film,
Yeah.
and
Go ahead.
for
Yeah.
what they stand for,
Hmm.
just for different reasons. I feel like those are kind of like those names are dropped a lot, but just but for good reason, and each of them have their own uh appeal to me. But yeah, I mean there's just so many, yeah, but those are kind of like the small group.
That's cool. So some of my favorite directors, Ava, Jordan Peele, Kubrick. I have a lot more with Kubrick to catch up on though. But when I finally saw like 2001 and The Shining, I was like, yo, this man is. And I saw them. He's crazy. He's amazing. I mean, I saw them late, but better late than never. He's one of my favorites to like follow on like film Twitter, which is kind of fun. Trivia and photos and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, who else? Vince Gilligan. We mentioned Vince Gilligan. Um, oh man, see, I wasn't ready for you to ask actually. So I'm
Oh
like,
well.
but those are some of my favorites. I'm seeing some faces in my head, but I can't put names right now because I'm just on the spot. But
No, yeah,
just
those are some
those
great
are yeah,
ones. Definitely trailblazers, all of them, in their own
yeah.
right, for sure.
And I'm just loving watching like all the new people who are coming up, who are trying their hand at stuff like I mentioned, like Ray Seahorn or like Amy Aniobi, who directed some episodes of Insecure, or
Yeah.
Prentice Penny with like Insecure, of course, and Uncorked and things, and whether they're seasoned in the industry or not, it's just fun to see quote unquote younger or young directors or people getting their shot,
Absolutely.
basically, whether they're
Ab-
our age or younger, or like Prentice, he's been in the game, but like,
So
Uncorked, to my knowledge, was like his directorial debut.
Mhm.
feature film wise anyway. Um,
Yeah, Chloe
or
Zhao.
Chloe Jet, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Nomadland
Um,
is amazing.
Greta Gerwig.
Yeah,
Um, but for sure, yeah, no, there's a lot of people that are just on the rise with their own uh just stories that, need time to become iconic or to become legendary. Like it takes
yeah.
time for projects to kind of catch speed and for people to pick up on it. So but yeah, as far as like the classics are concerned, I feel all the names you mentioned are top notch.
Top notch. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, let's see. Let's talk more about your director's path. So you shared a little bit about your first early film, a very powerful story. Um, can you talk more? You're welcome. Can we talk more about director life? And like your, I had them here. Darn it, where'd they go? Oh, there we go. Watermelon, Dana, a Hollywood party. Um,
Yes.
a Hollywood, a Hollywood party. I was dying laughing.
Good. That's
I was like, so it's, I don't know if I'm gonna get the log line right, but it's this really cool, what, 6 minute short, right?
actually 2 minutes.
It was 2 minutes. It felt like there's so much in it.
Yeah, that's
I
such a
thought,
compliment.
you're welcome. And it's like, so it like opens with like this guru, this television guru's estate, and she's gonna like drop gems, right? And then it cuts to like her book signing or something, some party, and you get to direct, write, and act in this project. And so
Like,
you're one of the hosts. You've got like some drinks and some hors d'oeuvres, and you're like, yo, it's like that. We've all been there. We're like, hey, they've come down from the mountaintop, right? It's
yes.
like, do you have
She
any
literally
advice?
down from a mountaintop. She had just visited her monks in Malaysia.
Exactly. And
But
you
yes,
and your character's asking advice, and then she starts, getting the answers from the universe or whatever. And then I don't want to spoil it because it's only 2 minutes because people got to watch it, and I'm going to link it for everybody. Got in the show notes and the website, it's all going to be there. But something happens. If we wind up spoiling it a little bit, it's okay. But I was like,
yes.
when what happened, I'm sorry. I hope I'm not making the listeners
No,
mad because like,
no,
what is he
no.
talking about? But it's just when what happens.
You can share it. You can share it.
So it's like, so you're asking advice, and this woman kind of goes full blowhard. She's so full of herself. She grabs like an hors d'oeuvre, and she's like, oh, well, this, that, and the third. And she's spewing, what's it called? Food everywhere. And it
Yeah.
gets on your face and everything. And then the camera work you're directing is crazy because the close ups the timing is so comedic, and it's like, it's on her giving her answers, then it's on you, then it's on her, and maybe, unless I'm imagining it, you're doing things with the sound to kind of focus on the struggle you're going through or something. And it's just, and I'm like, and it lands on your mouth, and I'm like, I swear, I promise you, I'm sitting there and I'm like, Toryn, and that's not even your character's name, but I'm like, I swear I'm gonna jump through this computer
SMH.
if if you do what I think you're going to do. Don't do it.
Oh
Don't
my
do it.
God.
And you're just trembling, and your character probably can't even hear the advice now because you're so distracted.
Yes, because of the what is going on. Yes. Because what would anyone do in that scenario, especially if you're with someone that you admire? Like, because I feel like as soon as you lick it off or like wipe it, then you have to acknowledge it, and they have to acknowledge or apologize or say something, and then it's just doubly awkward. So it's
Yes.
like, and when people are in their own head, they don't even realize certain things that have
Sure.
happened. They might not even be present. So that was the big question, is like, does she realize what's happened or not? And what do we do about it?
How in the world did that come to you? Were you just sitting there thinking about that question? Like, what if Oprah or some.
Well, yes, 'cause I've been in those I just have been with close talkers and who just don't realize boundaries or
Yeah.
don't get personal space.
Hmm.
And you don't want to be rude by saying, can you back up a little bit?
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't know if this is, I don't know if you've ever had the misfortune of someone accidentally spitting like on your forehead or on your face or whatever.
No.
But if that has happened to you or
Oh
any
God.
soul that is listening to this who's been unfortunate enough to experience this, it's just kind of awkward because like, or if someone has a booger in their nose and you see it, like, do you tell them?
Hmm.
And if you don't tell them, are you a bad person for letting them walk around with a booger on their nose? So it's kind of like also to point to our awareness of self and others.
Hmm.
Um, you know, aside from the disgusting act of it, I wanted to liken it to Hollywood and the disgusting actions that we do to others because
Wow.
of our own self-absorbed nature. And uh, especially for someone who we consider to be a guru or to be woke or to be
Or very
awakened,
well
yeah,
knowledgeable.
she's not even aware of what she's done to the person that admires her and how she's affected this girl in her moment. And you know, so yeah, I not to say go too far into it, but I wanted to find a very simple yet funny way to encapsulate that message of like how many disgusting things happen in Hollywood and how people don't say anything about it and, you know, bite their tongue for lack of a better word, or like, you know, try to, or just don't don't vocalize things that are wrong
Sure.
clearly.
Hmm.
And and also, you know, being starstruck and wanting your idol to be this person and they're just not, and kind of being faced with that. And yeah, there are a lot of other
Cool.
meaning in it, but yeah,
That's cool.
thank you for bringing it up. Yeah, that was a fun project. I actually wrote it for a prompt, so it didn't just come out of nowhere. It was for
Okay.
this Freeze Art Festival that I was selected for back in 2020. Yeah, I was one of 10 finalists to be selected for the Freeze Art Fair that was on the Paramount lot, and 10 filmmakers got to make a 2-minute short film about the LA culture and the landscape of LA and how we see and view LA.
Hmm.
And so everybody had to make their own 2-minute interpretation or make a film about LA
Yeah.
and showing that through our lens. So that's the story that I chose to tell.
That was, it's such a point. It's seared on my brain. I'm just like, this thing is so funny, and there's just so much packed into it. It felt like it. Like I said, I you have to correct me. It wasn't 6 minutes. It's a couple minutes long, and I'm like, but it feels like there's so much going on. It's, yeah. You guys, everyone listening, check it out after you listen to this. I'll link it and everything.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah, it's
no,
pretty
you're
gross.
welcome.
It's gross. And honestly, I didn't even mean to be the actor. Like I was gonna cast someone for that.
Oh.
Um, but just because of time and like budget and just a lot of other restrictions or just limitations, I decided to act in it and to
Hmm.
it. So that was a really challenging experience too, because I was directing my actress
Right.
and kind of and producing as well, and I edited. I really did
Okay.
everything because it was just
Yo.
we had only a little bit of time, and again, like a very limited budget, and um just very yeah. So I had to kind of do a little bit of, I had to
Wear a lot of hats.
wear a lot of hats. Yes.
Yeah. Would that have
So
been, would you say that was your biggest lesson from that project? Learning how to
yes.
do that, or?
God, well, I feel that I learned a lot from that experience, from that project, because there is a beauty to having a department head for each department and not being a little bit of everything and not doing it all, because filmmaking is a collaborative effort. It cannot exist without other people bringing the work together. And so I had to learn the hard way about that, because I had the pleasure of having an amazing AD, and Rich Montero, and to give him a shout out, because he really just led the troops, while I was trying to be in front of the camera and kind of like manage everything. And I initially had written some voiceover for that moment when all of that does happen, so you can kind of hear about the actors, like what's going on, while the spittle is on. But just because of editing, I ended up not putting that in. So yeah, there was time and just a lot of factors that I feel could have strengthened the short. If I wasn't the only one kind of doing everything, like if I had had an actress to do it, I feel like the comedy could have been punched better. And just having like all of the people in place, like a proper, I don't know, just I appreciated having those departments there, because I had to kind of do a lot of it. But,
I feel you.
Yeah.
Because then you can be zeroed in on your roles, and so can they, and so it all just kind of I totally get what you're putting down. You did a great job, but I get what you're saying. It's that appreciation of being in your role, and everyone being able to pool it together and not have to do too many other jobs, because everyone sort of does, but you have a lane in a department for a reason. I totally feel that. Respect.
Yeah, thank you. And honestly, I
I
mean,
get
that
that.
was a really difficult shoot, because I originally planned for that whole setting to be up on a rooftop, like outside.
Oh,
And
cool.
it's set inside, but it had rained that day, and just last minute I had to figure out another location. So that actually was taken in the lobby of my building at the time. And we just kind of had to shift and do last minute adjustments, but yeah, I learned a lot, so
That's awesome. That's great.
it was fun.
Okay, next. So that was a Hollywood party. Next, we get just a little bit dramatic. Dana.
Yes.
Another brief. How long is that one? Is that one?
Dana was, God, I made Dana in 2014, 2015. That was my
A few
first,
minutes long.
that was, I don't, that's not my first film, but that was the first film I had ever did crowdfunding for,
Okay.
or really put my own just time budget, just kind of put a legitimate film together, if that makes sense. Because the earlier films were exercises for class, but this was like my first budgeted, legit film, I guess.
Like
But
post school, post graduation.
during
It
school
was during. It
actually,
was during.
I made,
Okay.
yeah, I'd made Dana was my first film for my intermediate film class.
Okay.
And that I came across that story back in 2014. I was just scrolling through YouTube, and I found the woman who inspired the story. Her name is Centoya Brown, and a lot of people have heard of her now, thankfully, just because her story has gained a lot of attention. But at the time, at the time I saw a documentary made about her, and she was a 16-year-old biracial woman living in Tennessee, and was prostituted by a boyfriend of hers, who who was a pimp. And she had gotten mixed up with a John who was just seedy, and and she ended up killing him in an act of
Mm.
self-defense, but received life in prison for it. And at the time she was still in jail when I came across her story.
Okay.
And um it just moved me on so many levels, because I, one, just saw this young woman who was not protected by the people who were supposed to protect her.
Right.
Uh, and she had to deal with the consequences of that for the potentially for the rest of her life, being a 16-year-old woman,
Yeah.
being a 16-year-old Black woman, um, who killed a white man who had no business being around her in the first place, who was like in
Right.
his 40s or something.
100%.
And the fact that she killed him in some self-defense and got life for it just was so wrong to
Yeah.
me. And I didn't know really what else to do but write a story inspired by it, and to
Hmm.
hopefully share it with anyone um, who cared about that type of a story. So yeah, that's where Dana originated. And I did take my own creative liberties and kind of switch the story up in a lot of ways. But yeah, that was that's one of my first babies. So
Wow.
has
That's
my
no, that is powerful. I think I'm not sure if I'd heard of that specific story. It just sucks that you keep, to this day, you are hearing a similar story, though. I
yeah,
very well did hear
exactly,
about that young woman's specific story, most likely, and then it sucks that you're hearing, yeah. And
exactly.
I think it's powerful and really cool that you shed light on that, because it's happening so much, to take the creative liberties to say, yo, this didn't just happen to this woman who's inspired the story, justice for her. This is happening to other people as well, and you're
Yeah,
hoping that they'll work together in concert to raise awareness, um, for such a really deep, very powerful situation. People's young Black women's lives getting stolen, situations like that.
yeah, all the time. Yeah. Thank you though for saying that. But yeah, it's yeah, I thought it was important to bring that to light too. So
Wow. Is
yeah, but
there
now
no, go ahead. She's
she's
what?
free now. The woman who
Awesome.
it's inspired by is free, and she was released. God, I'm blanking. 2021.
Okay,
It could have
last
been a,
year, yeah.
yes, I want to say, but or 2020.
That's awesome.
But it was the last few years she was released, and that is how the film starts. Actually, my Dana actually starts with the older version of herself being released from prison and coming back to the original scene where the crime occurred in the
Mm.
past, kind of make peace with it.
Mm.
And and it just moved my heart to know that that actually happened for her,
Yeah,
years later.
yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does.
um so yeah, yeah, that's why, I mean, it just affirmed why I do make films and why I love doing this. And
That's
yeah,
amazing. Did you what would you say you took away from, your biggest takeaway from that experience? It could have even been the crowdfunding or anything like that, just to bringing this story to life. Was there anything in addition that also you're like, I'll never forget that, maybe even from like a craft, standpoint, this film cemented that in me and I carry it further? Was there any experience like that that you recall?
wow, so many. Yes, one was again the logistics, because I also produced Dana. I wrote, produced, and directed that, which was hard. Well, I co-produced. I did have some producers on, but for the most part, I did a lot of that by myself. And
Wow. Wow.
that was just difficult with location scouting. And I also casted Dana too. And
She did a great job. All of them did.
Thank you. Yeah, no, Donovan Christie Jr. is phenomenal, and he was the actor who played Cut, who is Dana's boyfriend slash pimp.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that experience was interesting, casting like a pimp, because I also want to just put a different lens on kind of stereotypical Black characters that are in films too. Like I just feel pimps and prostitutes, like we are viewed in certain, like in these particular roles. So I
Yeah.
had a great time just looking at the nuances of that character with Donovan, and it's kind of exploring um, just the layers of this person and his relationship with Dana, and just creating more complexity to these classically stereotyped Black characters.
Yeah. Because like one thing that stood out for me was how regular they looked.
Hmm.
Like that's how, like for me that was kind of what's so poignant. It's like it's kind of scary, but also because they just look like anybody. They don't have
Yeah,
a uniform, so to, or like
yeah.
the uniform we're used to in other films or other portrayals, you know, which is still true, you know, for whatever that portrayal or that particular story was. But it's like these folks just, you know, you could just run into them at 7-Eleven or something and you
Yeah.
wouldn't know. They just seem like regular. She seems like a regular teen. He's a regular, you know, probably late teen, early 20, whatever. And that's
Hmm.
one of the things that made it so powerful, with just the air that they had, and also just how they came across. I thought that was amazing,
Oh,
actually. Yeah,
thank yeah, my thank you. I
of
all
course.
of them were so incredible to work with, and are so talented. I mean, Phoenix, who played Dana, I met her on set, and she was a PA and more interested in
Wow.
camera and wasn't really acting. And I saw her and I was like, I feel like you have this essence of Centoya, and just carry her very well, and would love to see, have you audition for this. And she just blew me away with her performance, and just um yeah, she just so naturally embodied this character, and like the vulnerability and the strength I felt that Centoya had. um and Joel, who played the teacher, was also an incredible actor. That was really fun, just casting this like villain, uh uh predator that is supposed to come off as this nice guy
Yeah, yeah.
who's supposed to, being the saving grace, but he's another wolf in sheep's clothing. So it was just cool to kind of cast and see these like characters come to life after I wrote, you know, them. So
That's awesome. And did you is there anything you could say about crowdfunding, in fact, cuz that's still a thing? Has
yeah,
it changed from 2014 to now in your experience? Is there any takeaway?
crowdfunding is a lot of work for anyone who is willing to take it on. It doesn't mean you can't make your goal, but you have to be actively uh, just you have to be posting constantly. There's just so much work to be done. But I did crowdfunding for Dana, and then I did crowdfunding for Watermelon, actually, and both campaigns were successful. So that was, I think, just as a
Awesome.
filmmaker, empowering to know that you can fund your own projects. If anything, that's the best part of Indiegogo, um, or just any crowdfunding platform. I feel really gives us the power to be our own executive producers and to be our own creators and showrunners. Like we really, you know, do have that avenue. But yeah, it is hard. I mean, because one, you're competing with every single other person who's posting. Um, you have to, if you have a certain goal, you have to ask people for certain amounts of money that, depending on the time, people just don't have. And like,
Hmm.
find ways to ask. Like that's also a hard part, like asking people or um so I would just say that if anyone is looking into doing crowdfunding, find someone who is dedicated to just specifically running that. Um,
Great advice.
and also making, and I think crowdfunding is also a lot about the story of of the film, if that makes sense. Like people have to want,
Yes, yes, it
they have to
does.
care about what you're trying to say, and finding the right audience who cares about that and kind of, um, I guess, speaking to them when it comes to that. And in terms of like prizes or, the incentives, finding things that would actually be of value to the people that are investing in you is important. Um, and but yeah, I think there are a lot of ways to, yeah, there are a lot of ways to make money, but you definitely have to have intention and be very clear on how, what you want and how to get it. So
That's great
if that,
advice. Be intentional. And that
yeah,
goes across the board. Like artists know that, to be sure. It doesn't work if you're not intentional. Um
yeah, especially with
and
money, especially with other people's money,
right.
because you just don't know what type of situation they're in, and if they just believe in you enough to give you their last $10, or or just
Hmm.
whatever, they're putting their money into your project.
Yeah.
So it's it takes it to another, it just, um I don't know, it puts that much more pressure to get the project done, to get it made, to reach the goal, and to, yeah, to just see it through to the end. So you just
Gotcha.
have to have a dedicated team. Just have some people that are really dedicated, who believe in the project, who understand crowdfunding,
Hmm.
and um yeah, and who are really willing to put in the time.
Cool. Dedication and intentionality. And you said that's a great segue to Watermelon. You also crowdfunded for that. Can you talk a little bit about that story and what that experience was like?
Absolutely. Watermelon was a bigger beast because that was a 13,000 crowdfunding goal, as opposed to 3,000 that I raised for Dana. And uh, it it took, it took a village, for lack of a better expression. But my producers were really, I mean, just it was all hands on deck for that. We filmed in LA, but we're in New York at the time, in school. So it was planning bi-coastally, which was a challenge. Um, but oh God, what do you want to know about Watermelon? Because honestly, there's just like, there's a lot going on with that whole little
Talk about the
universe.
bi-coastal. I didn't know that you were going to say it. So what's a big takeaway or a highlight from that, from managing that project from bi-coastal standpoint? What's that like?
Well, Um, it was tricky because the casting and also dance rehearsals were done virtually for the most part. Um, and the place that we filmed was at my old high school, Cleveland, in LA.
Oh,
And that was
awesome.
just a big deal. Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal for me to film there, if I had the opportunity to
Right,
film
right.
where all of the just the where everything hit the fan, basically, for me. So
The
that, I
formative
just felt
years.
appropriate. Exactly, that was the appropriate place to take it, to film. So
Cool. And in
I
fact, can you
mm,
real quick tell the people what the story is real quick?
absolutely, yes. So Watermelon is a coming of age film about a little uncoordinated, oddball who wants to be a part of a cheerleading squad desperately, and doesn't have the money to beyond the squad. So she comes up with a side hustle of filming music videos for the cheerleaders that are trying out for the squad, so that she can afford the tryout uniform she needs to get onto the squad. So she becomes her own little director, filmmaker, and just basically shoots music videos. And yeah, it's a story about just finding your own empowerment, just walking in your truth, even if you feel too big or too awkward or too just not right or not fitting for whatever space that you're in. And yeah, I'm currently expanding Watermelon into a series now, and it's
Yo.
taken a whole different spin. It's like different from what I just pitched to you now. It's kind of expanded upon that and taken on its whole other universe. But it's the TV series is actually a blend with Hollywood Party and the short film. So it's like bringing those two worlds
Exciting.
together to create something else. So we can talk about that more,
Yes.
but
No,
that's in a
absolutely.
nutshell. That's
Okay.
yeah.
So that's the story. And then okay, and then back to the challenges and triumphs of film creating this bi-coastal.
Yeah. So it was mainly a challenge. Well, one, just producing that, it comes with a lot of extra costs, just naturally. If you're going to be bi-coastal, it's like travel costs, lodging, finding what crew, if you're going to fly your crew out, or have local crews in LA, because there was also a discussion of of filming in New York, but New York does not look like LA. They have very distinct, different looks and tones,
Yes, they do.
and I always imagine Watermelon being in an LA setting, because that's just where I grew up, but um that culture of cheerleading in high school, I've just thought fit LA better. So um one, just simply, it was the challenge of budget, like,
Gotcha.
not um, just wondering how that was going to work. Also, the cheerleaders were fantastic and were in LA, and they were we were working with them in, God, the name is escaping me right now, up in Santa Clarita at the Light Dance Studio, which is the name of the studio that they're with. And
Okay.
they were all so incredible, but they had to, all of the sessions were virtual, and I had to watch like their just practice and everything, and I was barely able to be there in person. I casted them in person, so they all danced, and we did like a group, and that was also really hard, like picking the team. But once they were cast, and then I went back, um, there was a lot of like kind of just watching them on video and just having to like see how the practices were going. Our choreographer Celise Searles was with them, and she was LA based, so she had to kind of speak with me virtually, and I had to kind of direct and talk to them, um, through Skype or FaceTime or whatever.
Wow.
So that was just hard and a unique experience to see, like, in person, and then in New York, and doing both. But yeah, I felt it was nice to still be able to have like the bond with the girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that was really fun, just picking all the cheerleading uniforms and like getting the girls fitted for their uniforms and shoes, and like giving them that experience of like being actors in a movie was really fun. So that really, lended a lot of just kind of, I don't know, that was a really important part for me, to give the girls that experience of like being in a movie, and um, you know, just being on screen and seeing themselves on screen. Um, because when I premiered it, we were at the Raleigh Studios in Hollywood. So the girls got to come and actually see themselves in a theater. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I know I'm going a little all over the place, but it just, I think it enriched the experience by being able to be in New York and then come to LA and film. Um, and I graduated shortly. I graduated right before I filmed. So
Nice.
yeah, so I graduated and then flew out here, filmed, and just stayed in LA after that point. And I've been in LA ever since. But
Cool. So all of that sounds really exciting, really challenging of doing things bi-coastal, directing to some degree or to a great degree through Zoom, Skype, etc. But then you being able to gift that amazing experience to your actresses, all the cheerleaders and everything coming to LA to see the premiere. That's got to feel really good. One thing that jumped out to me when I watched it, I thought it was really cool that the main character, one, yeah, she's what's her goal? She's trying to be a cheerleader. But I thought it was cool that she had the side hustle of producing music videos. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I was like, this is a really talented character, and you guys just made it all look amazing too.
thank you so much. Yeah, the whole team on Watermelon was, I mean, they were just all the biggest blessing because they were incredibly talented for one, but just also just sweet and like the sweetest individuals, who just really believed in the project and who put their hearts into it. And I mean, Sarai was my choice from day one. As soon as I saw her, I just knew that she had to be Clark, because of what she brought to the character and to that role. And I just felt like she embodied that character, with so much grace and just confidence and poise. And just, I originally came across Sarai uh, in her Soyo music video that was released a few years back. And the whole message behind the video is just being unapologetically comfortable with yourself and embracing yourself and loving who you are, exactly as you are. And I that is what I wanted to bring to Watermelon. Like um that's why I told the story, and I felt like Sarai just carried that. And I didn't audition anyone else for that role, because just as soon as I saw her, I'm like, that's it. So
That must have felt
I
amazing.
don't know. Yeah, I was like, I don't care what I have to do. I don't care who I have to call to get this little girl in this film. But yeah, it was a great feeling, because especially when you write those characters that are super specific, um, or that have little nuances or just little quirks that are, that breathe life into the character, that give the character dimension. I feel like that's really hard to do with child actors. And Sarai is just so intelligent and just such a mature, um, soul, that she was able to get those complexities, but still bring this like youthfulness to Clark, which I thought was just really hard to do. And so, yeah, like I feel like the actors and the dancers and, um, those kids just brought so much to the film in general. Because I feel like we see a lot of dance films, and we see a lot of like film, like high school kid films, if that makes sense. And
Yeah, I see
um,
what you mean.
it's hard for younger actors to get like subtleties.
Okay.
And I feel like all of the actors that I worked with, the child actors, really understood, um just um I don't know, emotions that are more complicated to convey, if that makes sense, which
Okay.
help the story. So I don't know
Was
if that's
this
like a uh-huh.
was this your first time working with child actors?
It in this And in this regard, yes.
Gotcha.
I had worked with my little baby cousin in a short film, but that was like a couple minutes long,
Gotcha.
and I feel like it was different. So I had worked with a child actor before, but this was the first time I had worked with this many kid actors.
Right.
And so yeah, I would consider this like my first like real directorial experience with like a child actor.
Wow. And what was that? Well, you hinted at it a little bit with the.
No, I'm sorry, I'm lying. Actually, I totally did have another short that I made called Ashes in school. It was another school assignment, but I
Mhm.
did work with some kid actors in that. But this was like a film, so that was for like a TV
Okay.
class. So it was different, but yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. That's cool. And then so did the actress's name is you said Sarai, right? The character's name is Clark.
I yes,
Okay, just wanted to make sure I
exactly.
had that right. And so and so you saw her work in music videos. Did that inform some of the storyline, or did you already have that for Clark as far as her
I
producing her own videos?
Great question. I already had Clark in mind before
Okay.
I found Sarai,
Okay.
and um, and that was the thing. Because when I wrote the character, I didn't even really I didn't I kind of had an idea of what this girl would look like, but I didn't fully see her yet. But then once I saw Sarai, I couldn't unsee her, and it just was like, oh, you fit so like this is Clark.
Love it. Yeah.
Um, I just kind of wanted to write the essence of the character, and then I felt like the right actress would just kind of find the role, and or I would find her, and it did. So it
Wow.
worked out.
That is awesome. Did you any other takeaways from this experience? And was this also your latest project at the time to date or not?
A Hollywood Party is my latest project,
Okay.
uh, but I did Watermelon in 2017,
Okay.
and so it has been some time, and it has still been in the cooker ever since. But yeah, that it was my second to last
Nice.
project. So yeah, but there's so much that I want to explore with that world and with that story. I actually was inspired by Watermelon because I used to work at a mother-daughter salon in LA,
Oh,
and
cool.
there was a little girl that was having a surprise birthday party, and um, she was a little bit on the chunkier side and a little insecure, and just didn't really, know how to carry herself. But all of her friends were these cute little like, I mean, these little teeny bopper, like, with their little Balenciaga t-shirts on, and
Uh-huh.
like just, these ritzy kind of like just cute,
Mm-hmm.
like cuter kids, and they were doing karaoke because I led karaoke for the birthday parties, and we were doing karaoke, and all of the girls that were at the party were like on stage, and this one was upstaging the birthday girl and singing and basically just stealing the show,
Can't have
and the
that.
poor birthday, you can't. And I just, I'm like, how can you have
Bruh.
someone upstage your own party? Yeah. And you really can't have that. And I needed to write a story about one, taking back your own power at your own birthday party, but uh,
Cool.
just being comfortable in your skin and knowing that you can be, that badass, confident girl, even if you are a little heavy set, or if you are a little, if you haven't grown into yourself
Yeah.
fully yet, and you're kind of trying to figure stuff out, you can still be confident in that stage,
Yeah.
so um
I
yeah,
love
just
that. That's cool.
that's kind of what inspired it. And I also was a cheerleader in high school.
Okay.
And so kind of like a blend of those two worlds coming
Yeah.
together.
That experience,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah. Thank God I'm not a cheerleader anymore though. So that's why I told a story about it so we can move on from that past. But yeah, the
And
story stuck.
so now what's it like combining elements of Watermelon with Hollywood Party? And what gave you the idea to do that?
So I just it's gradually come together just over time. I didn't know that I was going to blend those stories together until I made a Hollywood Party, and until I created the TV host character whose name is Prada Javi, and she uh, basically inspired. I don't want to give the full plot away, but
Yeah.
basically, I thought that a TV host philanthropist character who is about being woke and being awakened could be an interesting way to segue into Clark's world. Um, I feel like that's super vague and not descriptive, but um, how did it inspire it? I'm trying to uh in a nutshell, I just thought it would be intriguing to tell a story about a philanthropist that gets a TV host slash philanthropist who gets called out for being a wolf in sheep's clothing by a nobody with a camera.
Ah,
So
okay.
Clark was a filmmaker, director, um, and like a kind of fly on the wall is able to put a lens on this massive celebrity who is not really about what she says she's about. And I wanted to bring those two worlds together and create another separate universe in
That's
itself.
cool. This
Is
sounds
that
fun.
clear?
I got
I'll
some
send you
ideas
this.
in my mind, but you said what?
I'll send you the script because I don't really want to share the
No,
full
it's okay.
plot right now, but I'll send you the script so you can see where I'm going with it. But
Whoa. High honor. Somebody call Prince Zuko. Like,
did
what?
I
She
mean,
gonna send me
besides
the
the
script.
tech speaks, yes, yeah, we got to get
Yeah.
some voices on this. Yeah,
Awesome.
I would
Okay.
love your opinion. But
Cool.
but yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell um, what inspired it.
Okay.
And this philanthropist, in short, is a billionaire, and
Hmm.
she has been very successful in what she does, and pretty much gets called out for being a sellout to her own people because she's a Black TV host. I don't know if that was, I guess that's clear from a Hollywood Party, but
No,
because
no,
she's
but
a Black
for the listeners, for those of you who you haven't watched it yet, yes, she's a Black TV host.
yeah,
Yep.
she's a Black TV host who came from just humble beginnings and uh, wanted to inspire others to understand that abundance is around us all, and just essentially being like kind of the awakened Black speaker of the generation. And now that she's made her money, uh, it's argued that she's forgotten about where she came from, and so she has to do something about that. And that's kind of where Clark comes in. um and
Wow.
again, I know that's super vague, but
No,
I'll
I'm
tell
getting the
you.
picture in my mind. But you can tell me off, Mike. You
Yeah,
can not to rub it in nobody's face. When you the host, sometimes this happens. So I'm not complaining. But no, I think
no,
you painted a little bit of a picture. This coming of age, this quote unquote nobody, this film nerd who's trying to come into her own, who at some point comes across this other well-known, knowledgeable, quote unquote, guru who may or may not be out of touch. I'm kind of getting like some what's that Martin movie? Roscoe Jenkins a little bit. For anyone
Uh,
who's seen that, like mildly, just to the point of the TV host character. And it's like, oh yeah, those are always interesting stories when people make it, especially if you black, you make it, you're on the world stage, and people wonder like, have you lost touch or anything? I'm getting a little bit of a
yeah,
visual in my mind.
exactly. No, that is to a T is what I'm trying to talk about. And just also humanizing celebrities and just uh
Right, like we were saying earlier.
a light on the fact, yeah, exactly, and just showing that they are human too and have to make difficult decisions all the time
Yeah,
and have worked to climb the ranks to get to where they are, and sometimes make decisions that we would question, in order to stay where they are. And I think we can judge it all day long, but you know for any Black person who is able to become that successful, you had to make sacrifices. You
hmm,
had to do things that people wouldn't agree with. And does that make you wrong? Does that make you bad? To what lengths are you willing to go for success? um and especially if you're like the token Black person of your culture,
yeah.
what do you do? Like, how do you run the show? So
In a situation like
um
that, yeah, you're the
yeah.
only one.
And it's yeah, especially when all eyes are on you to kind of be that face of like Black success. um and then not really being in integrity with that necessarily, and having a kid film that and put
Yep.
that on the world, and and call you out for it. And I just thought it'd be interesting to see those two characters together. um yeah.
And this is a, and remind us again, this is a series or a film?
Originally it was supposed to be a film, but because of like the world that I'm working on, I do see it as a series, and I
That's
think
cool.
that a limited series is just what fits uh this particular world better.
That's cool. This is, yeah, I think this would hit. I'm not just saying it sounds fresh, sounds really interesting. I'm a sucker for coming of age stories as well. And it sounds like there's a coming of age quality for not only the teenage character, obviously, but I think, adult characters can experience coming of age in a way too, or a
Absolutely.
clean slate, or starting over. And I think a lot of people definitely find that interesting. Like, can an adult learn lessons? Can they start over? Can they pivot? Or is their
Mhm.
life just, is it done? Is it where, whatever stage it is, whether you're high on the hog, whether you're low in status, quote unquote, is this it? Or can there be more? I think this would be
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch this because this sounds really, really kind of cool. It's up my alley, I think.
Thank you. I'm glad it piques your interest because it's I really want to tell this story. So yeah, I'm glad you're
That's cool.
interested.
Yeah. In fact, that's a great segue into writing for sure. Let me see. Where do I want to go with this? So, did it take you a while to discover your writer's voice? Do you think you have it now, especially talking about this series?
Um, that is a great question, actually. I do think it took me a while to find my writer's voice because, to be honest, just growing up in the industry or just like around it, I kind of felt like it was what I just not had to do, but it just seemed like the natural next. And I kind of was going with the motions of like filmmaking because I kind of felt like, oh, this is like what my family does. So this is kind of what I should do. And it took me living life and having experiences and almost feeling out of control in so many of those experiences without explanations as to why these things happened to me, that I felt like the only way to really express it was through writing and through storytelling, and um and connecting to my voice and my authentic voice, and identifying what that is has been challenging, because for a large portion of my life, on admittedly, I feel like I'm a bit of a people pleaser and just a little too nice sometimes and agreeable, and I don't, I'm
Whew,
working on
been
that.
there.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, which is,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, and you lose your voice when you're trying to be the person for everybody else,
Yeah.
and and so I got way too much in the habit of just kind of trying to be who everyone else wanted me to be, and I feel like inherently you lose your voice by doing that. So
Yes.
by kind of recognizing that that's what I was falling into, I tried to just write my truth, write my experiences as I knew, how they occurred and how they happened, um, and just kind of pulling from that space. So, yeah.
Was there, if you feel comfortable sharing, was there a breaking point or an aha moment or an epiphany where you were like, nah, we not doing this no more. I'm a cheer people on and be in your corner, but like something's gotta give. Would you be able to describe that at all for yourself?
Like, as far as being a writer and
Oh,
like people,
the people pleasing aspect.
oh, got you. To be honest, I still feel like I battle with it now, but I'm getting, I think what forced me to realize that it's not healthy or sustainable was when I got out of college
Hmm.
and realized that I needed to make a life for myself and, sustain and survive, for lack of a better, just to figure out what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you have to set your own boundaries and find your own, um, find what works for you and what doesn't work for you very quickly, in just once you're in the world and not protected by school or living with parents or living,
Yeah.
on, just when you really are out on your own, you have to find and define the terms that work for you. So, uh, I don't, like, people pleasing just wasn't sustainable anymore, because it's like, okay, what you need, I just don't even have the capacity to do right now, and I have to take care of myself because,
That part.
my cup isn't even full enough to give to you. So
Yeah.
I need to work on filling my cup first before I'm able to, pour into anybody else.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, that's kind of been the journey of yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I battle with it myself as well. I think you're not alone in that, and some people move a little bit faster than others in their journey. Everyone's journey is different, but so long as you're progressing and seeing, so I think for a lot of us, it could be what you said. Well, my cup's not even full enough, so it's more you're experiencing the negative, which is still teaching you the lesson, which is great. And then sometimes it's actually the benefits of saying no
Yeah.
to the outside and saying yes. Sometimes it's the benefits of that. The rewards are like, this is why it's worth it for me to
Mhm.
put my oxygen mask on first, so to speak. Make
Yeah.
sure I'm prioritizing myself before I
Mhm.
try to like prioritize you. Everyone's journey is different, but my own
Yeah.
experience, that's some of what I'm seeing as
Ab-
people try to figure it out and as I try to figure it out.
Absolutely. It's a tricky balance because I think that, uh, everything happens in moderation, and uh, as a filmmaker or just as a creative, you do have to be selfish to an extent. You have to
That's right.
be, you have to focus on your craft. You have to focus on, taking time away from others to get in touch with that. And you have to be conscious of those things, but also understand that we live in an industry with a bunch of other people who are doing the exact same thing. And the art is also about collaboration and not just being about yourself. Um, so, uh, you know, recognizing your voice, but also recognizing that there are other voices to listen to. And uh, yeah, I just think that's the important part about directing personally, is that, you know, it is a way to to um to voice your opinions and your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts, um but also opening up the space for others to comment on how they feel about your work too.
Yeah.
So um yeah, I agree, though it's kind of hard um to prioritize your work and others, and do it do both at the
Mm-hmm.
same time.
Sure.
um but but yeah, that's um
Nice. What about
yeah.
here circling it back to the writing? Do you have do you have a process? Like we all know outlining is very important with script writing. It's not like literature and other things. You can kind of discover it. You can't technically you can't do that with
uh
screenwriting. There's in your development you can a little bit when there's no money on the line, but you kind of have to get those best practices kind of quickly. Are you able to describe your writing process when you have a new idea,
um
or what
it's
works for you? I guess is what
weird.
I'm really asking.
It's weird. I honestly think that I am still finding my pattern as a filmmaker slash director, because
Mm-hmm.
I am relatively early on in my career, respectively. I do have experience under my belt, but I still have a lot to learn. So um, I'm losing my train of thought. But
Oh, take your time.
uh, sorry, because you said, uh, can you refer what,
Sure.
just in terms
I think
of
I
what?
what did I ask? I said oh, your process and
Oh,
your writing
yeah.
process, and do you know what works for you when you have a new idea?
Okay, so it really comes in waves, because I'll get super inspired and clear about one idea, and then it'll just kind of all flow out just at once, when I'm writing. So I'll start with an experience of my own, or that I've heard about, that strikes me or that moves me in some way, and then usually um, I'm a very visual. I have to visualize it, I guess. First, music really helps me to visualize things in like scenes, and so I'll
Nice.
start kind of like, um, a lot of the time driving, like I'll just blast music and kind of see scenes in my head, and then we'll start with a scene and kind of write that, and then that'll just, and
That's cool.
I guess the natural next of the story will just kind of flow. So it'll kind of initiate the story, and then um I'll just kind of naturally follow the path of the story, that I feel kind of makes sense.
That's cool. Do you do playlists also by any chance?
I do, yes. Not like specifically, because like I mean, I did do a playlist for Watermelon. I didn't do
Oh,
one
okay.
for Dana, but I've kind of noticed like that's been my pattern.
Okay.
um
Good to know.
um which, yeah, I'm also learning just about like directors in general. Directors kind of work with patterns, and you see like
Yeah.
especially in their work, things that like motifs or just elements that will pop up or be
Yeah.
um uh recognizable, identifying factors of their work in
Mm-hmm.
particular, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I saw
Which is,
something like that on Twitter. Someone was asking
uh-huh,
like about motifs, and there were a bunch of really
yeah,
interesting answers. It reminded me of like one that I think Michael Mann does is he did like For those who don't know, like he did Heat and Collateral and a few others. There's still anyway characters making decisions by bodies of water. That's in Heat.
Mm.
And I think also in Collateral, it might be a photograph of water, since Jamie Foxx's character has like that photograph of the beach in his cab. And I think I'm
Mhm.
missing it from one other movie, but I thought that was a cool motif. That came to mind when you
Yeah,
said that.
exactly. Yeah, that
Patterns.
idea, yes. And just seeing kind of what a filmmaker like chooses to include it in their films. And I feel that I'm starting to see what those patterns. Because what one thing I was going to say is that I feel like a lot of those choices are conscious, but are also subconscious too. And um, and I like to see what naturally comes out once the film has been made, because you can have one intention when you're writing, and then it's another thing when it's like in production, and then it's a whole other thing when it's actually like when it's a film. So
100%.
yeah, I feel like yeah, I'm still trying to find what my patterns are as a, yeah, as a filmmaker. And
That's cool. That's cool.
good.
Are you a
All right.
journaler at all?
I do journal and write a lot. It's been hard to kind of keep up with it recently, but yeah, when I can, I will.
That's cool.
Um,
That's
like we need to do that though, just as creatives, or not even just as creatives, but as like
That's
people,
people.
to write and record your thoughts, to
Yeah.
see just how you view things, because you
Mm-hmm.
kind of need to take a step back. I think to objectively see how you view the world.
Yeah.
And
Checking with yourself.
yeah, I feel that one thing that I want to emphasize, or just share from my own experience, is just um, to really get in touch with one's truth, like your own authentic truth, and not being afraid to stand by that or to believe in that, even if other people don't agree. Uh, and I feel like it can be challenging as writers, as also young writers, and also as young Black writers or writers of color, to write what's authentic to them, because they're still trying to uh, get work or have people with money say yes to them. So a lot of our stories are diluted because we're trying to say what everyone else wants us to say, or say what
Yeah.
people feel comfortable with, because we don't want to offend anyone. But I think that that weakens our stories. I think it weakens and just takes away from the truth that people really need to hear right now. Um, because we do live in a world of social media where everything's fabricated and
Curated.
curated to look like something else other than what it is. And no one really knows like what an authentic experience is like, that has struggle, that has conflict, that has confusion or lack of clarity or failure. You know, we try to hide that so much, and I feel like
True.
that is what enriches our life and our personal journeys.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I just hope for people to get in touch with their story and write what's true to them, and make that, because that's really what other people want to see. I think, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like people want to see and learn and hear about authentic experiences, because we're living an authentic experience, you know. And how are you going to learn how someone really got through a difficult situation without hearing the truth of how they got through that? um, and I think that film is one of the most influential mediums that we have, and people are, you know, they watch things and digest that and go about their lives.
Yeah. Affected by it or impacted, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we just have to be careful about what we're putting out into the world and what people are viewing. And as writers, I think we have a responsibility to tell the truth, or to tell our truth, because there's so much, BS out there. There's so many people that are lying out there that it's hard for people to know the difference,
Hmm.
but I do think that the truth is undeniable, like, and that stands out beyond any other work or content. And I think that that is what creates the most timeless stories, like stories that are based in so much truth. And I mean, if you think about any classic film that has literally withstood the test of time,
Yeah.
it's like, why does that story stick with us more than, some film you might have seen at the theater yesterday and you can't even remember the name of it, or you can't even remember like what it was about.
Yeah.
So
They endure. For some reason, I thought of Do the Right Thing when you
yeah,
when you brought
yeah,
that up.
exactly. Yeah, in stories like that. And that's why, Do the Right Thing is a classic in and of itself, because of the fact that it's so authentic to Spike Lee, and because it is so rooted in his truth and in his story, and it is in his world, and he knows it like nobody else does.
Yeah.
And um that's why it is the film that it is. So I just think that writing starts there. Like, it starts with those experiences. um I mean, really, if you think about like any classic, that's, I feel like, kind of the root of it. So um yeah.
That's powerful. Like, you've hinted at some of it. Is there any more you'd like to say about your own truth? Have you discovered what that is? Like, you hinted at like coming of age and underdog stories in other films that you like, and then in your films, Watermelon, Dana, A Hollywood Party, etc. Have you been able to pinpoint what some of your truth is, or more of it?
For sure, yes. I have. I think that a lot of the common themes within all of the works have to do with self-worth, and exploring how a person defines their worth, who deems one worthy, and why do we give a person that type of power over us. um and you know I think that I've struggled with identifying my own worth a lot. I think that I have kind of doubted myself and just taken positions that, like, are like really laborious, or just I don't know, just, I guess, quote unquote, below my pay grade, or just jobs that I just I don't know, just I guess the theme is really exploring worth, and just knowing your worth, and knowing who you are, so that you don't have to rely on anybody else to tell you what your worth is.
That's powerful, and really, you're not alone in that. Been through, I'm seeing areas in my own life where I've had to do that, where I might have taken something that someone thought, yeah, was beneath you, or I knew someone or associated with someone that other people wrote off, but I was like, but I know them better. Sometimes I was right, sometimes I was wrong, but that was the truth that I was in at the time, and things associated with self worth, as well, and self esteem, with like my own story, and like the homeschooling, for example, is like really hot now because you got YouTube and things. But if you didn't know, I was homeschooled, and there were days where I like kind of struggled with that sometimes, to like be The
Yeah.
socializing was easy, but there was like the lines of commonality when you're trying to make friends because, well, they're moving at a certain speed that you aren't. They have toys and clothes, and they're talking about things that you might not have because it's not always in your sphere for whatever
Right.
reason. Or and so
Yeah.
you're like, well, is my personality and my viewpoint of value, or do I need to chameleon that? And I hear some overlap with you of like doing chameleoning or doing what is expected or trying to fit in,
Exactly. And I feel that that's directly tied to not understanding or knowing one's worth. Um, when you feel like you have to kind of blend in or acquiesce to kind of what other people want or what other people's needs are. And if you're focused on that, then you really aren't going to be able to get in touch with yourself or what you do bring to the table. And oh my cat. That's Sylvie. Hello.
Made her little cameo
She
on the
did.
Zoom
She just
call.
had to. She couldn't wait. Um, her moment in this sun.
15 seconds of fame.
Pretty much, yeah. Um, but my cat just made an appearance to anyone who's curious.
What's her name?
Sylvie.
Sylvie's love.
Sylvie. I like to call her Sylvia Kath sometimes, like as a Sylvia Plath nod, if
that.
anyone knows her.
Oh my lord.
But yeah, to give her
That's
a
great.
dark spin.
Sylvie was like,
But
"You talking about self worth? I want my little cameo. I'm gonna take you guys'
okay,
advice."
yeah, and she did. She did the dang thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I uh think that especially as a again, as a filmmaker of color, as a person
Yeah.
of color, there's one thing of just knowing your worth to begin with, to even exist in this world. It's
Yeah.
just we're constantly reminded that um you know that we are not worthy, or are trying to be reminded that we're not worthy of.
Yeah. They're pushing it on us.
Yeah,
And if you're
I
not
think
careful, you self-sustain it on your own if you're not careful.
exactly. Yeah, unless, I mean, some of us are blessed enough to have parents that just
Yes.
instill and
Yes.
tell you from the beginning, like, you are worthy, you are important, you deserve to be heard, you deserve to have a voice.
Yes.
um you
Thank you to
know
all those parents. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Invaluable.
I mean, it's invaluable. There's no other greater gift I think you could give to a kid, to just tell to a Black child or to a brown child specifically, like
Yes.
you have to tell us that from a very early age, because every other message in the world is telling you otherwise, and you believe that as the years go by, if nobody tells you you're worthy,
Right.
you should be here, you deserve to be here. And I just think we carry that with us as artists, um, and especially as filmmakers or musicians. And oh my god.
Do you need to get her for a minute?
Give me a second, let me just
Sure.
release her from this room. Sorry guys, just trying to get food off of a shelf and succeeded, and that's the bowl that you heard fall to the ground.
Oh no, don't worry. I can edit that out.
Okay, good. Okay,
Yeah,
because
it'll
I
be
was
like nothing happened.
freaking cat. Um, anyway,
Do you even
but
remember where you were?
um,
I'm trying to remember.
just about worthiness, exploring, just that filmmakers, I think like creatives need to understand our worth, because
Yeah.
um as an artist, there really is no limit to what you can charge for your work, or what you can um I mean, there's this the sky's the limit. If you know your worth, you could say, hey, this piece is, a couple $100,000,
Right.
depending, or whatever. And And if other people recognize that and you don't, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think that, um, as Black and brown people, our worth has always been recognized by others. And that is why we've been exploited the way that we have been.
Mm.
And we need to recognize that, because it's
Yeah.
like if someone's exploiting something, then they have something to exploit. They have
Yeah.
something that is of value to exploit. So you need to recognize that you possess that. And
Yes.
yeah.
You need and that support. Like you're talking about value. Like I even thought about like I've struggled to like know like what to charge people when I would do like video projects and things like that. And that's why support's helpful because I have a good friend, a client who I edit YouTube videos for and help out with podcasting. And she's been an entrepreneur for like 10 plus years.
Oh wow.
And I always go to her if I can't figure out like what should I charge? I don't know. And she's like, oh,
Yeah.
don't worry. Okay, so you're doing this, this, and that, and it helps me as a businessman and my self worth as well to like make sure I'm not
Yeah.
underselling or those
Overselling.
things. Those things help or
Yeah.
overselling. Yeah,
Yeah, because I think that it's like you have to be reasonable. You have to know, okay, this is my skill set. This is what I know I can do and what I bring to the table. But also what's reasonable within the budget that you have, what's doable uh for the project as a whole, and finding the middle ground that works for both parties, that works for yourself
yeah,
and for the crew or the team or whoever. So
yes. To your point about self worth, and we were mentioning parents. Can you shout out anyone who's like your number one supporter?
oh man, I mean, my cheesy butt just wants to say the Lord.
No,
Because
amen to
that, I
that.
mean, really, there have been times where I've been by myself with nobody and had to figure it out by myself and through just connecting to source and just spirit and God, like
Yeah,
sometimes you are your own
I feel that.
biggest fan and your own biggest supporter.
Hmm.
And not to sound arrogant or come off as arrogant, but I feel like I have had to be my own biggest supporter for the most part. But to actually say like an outside, like a person, I mean, my parents have always been um in my corner and supporting me from day one. And
That's
I,
great.
I really can't say one or the other because they both have equally um just been there for me and really yeah, just been the backbone in terms of like my just life growing up and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think parents are OG, but I mean I am grateful to have a lot of really amazing girlfriends who have been in my court. Um yeah, I don't I it's hard to name. I mean,
No, it's okay. You said a lot for
yeah,
sure.
Danielle Boyd, I mean, number one. I mean, if they're like, aside from family, she is the biggest queen, powerhouse, superstar filmmaker, director that I've known for some time. She graduated from NYU. I don't know if
Cool.
yes, but we met just through mutual friends. But
Hmm.
just ever since we graduated, she's always just stuck her neck out for me, tried to give me or let me know about jobs, and is also a director and is the reason I got into the Freeze program. And we were both in that together. And she created an incredible film that we screened at Paramount. So
Nice.
um, just, I mean, if anything, like I feel like I can really owe a lot of my success in my career thus far to her, because she has offered me, like, because she's been the link to so many of the opportunities that have like propelled my career. So
That's
um
awesome.
yeah.
We salute you, Danielle Boyd. We salute you.
Danielle Boyd, Miss, yes,
That's fire.
queen.
Another thing I want to go back to, this is a follow up actually. So I ask it like this: how do you live a full life as a writer, creative? You.
Um, how do I live a full, like, how do I sustain off of being a writer or a creative? Or
Actually, no, actually, like outside of creativity, but you know it has an impact. Like it could be taking yourself on dates, it could be hiking, it could be traveling, it could be going for a drive, could be another hobby, or
like what
a hobby, could be hobbies, things
um
outside of it.
got you. Just what do I do for fun? How do I live my
I could have
life?
just asked it like that. Y'all hear me? I tried to be all
No,
profound.
no, hey, I mean that works too. I get it. I pick up what you're putting down. Um, I I love to go to movies. Just I mean, being in the theater is just one of the most calming experiences. Um, Not to sound like a square, but I love to go alone.
No, I discovered that a few years ago. I
Yes.
used to be like, who in the world would go? Because my friends, we go like, I rewatched Pacific Rim the other day and I remembered, yo, we was like 10, 12 deep when we
Yeah.
went to see, and that's great. But then like in about hurtling toward the pandemic, actually, like late 2019, early 2020, I
Mhm.
remember I saw like the rhythm section by myself. I saw Just Mercy by myself, Queen and Slim by my
Oh,
Uncut Gems by myself. I was like,
yes.
I'm so glad I discovered going to the movies by myself. So no, don't feel bad.
Hidden gem. Okay, thank you. Because I get shamed about it, or I feel shamed sometimes because people are like, "You don't got no friends. Why are you going alone?" I'm like, "Hop
Can
off."
I
Okay,
live?
yeah. Let a girl just have her experiences. Uh, because I feel like you're just there for the movie and you're just like able to just focus on, I don't know, it's that, and also just kind of being in this dark theater with like not having to worry about
Yeah.
your problems or life.
The escapism for real.
Yeah, yes, to put it plainly. But what else? I love going to the beach. I feel like that's so cliche, but
Yes. No, it
I
isn't.
love the beach.
Because I
um
miss it. I can't wait to hit up the further East Coast. Because I'm in Rwanda. For those who are new to the show, and so it's landlocked. But I can't wait to visit the coast in Tanzania here on the East Coast. Because living in LA for 3 years, I lived 15 minutes from Dockweiler Beach.
wow,
Some would say that wasn't the best beach, but
it's still
I made it my own. It's still the beach. It was still beautiful.
a
I would take walks, I'd pray, I'd read,
oh,
I'd
good.
journal. I had a lot of amazing. I'm glad I have so many photos and videos. My family would go. I
That's,
went there a lot in the weeks leading up to, this African adventure.
yeah.
I spent a lot of time at the beach. So no, that is not cliche. I don't care if you're in LA. That is
Um,
not cliche because it's a beautiful, meditative, rejuvenating place.
it is. Thank you. Yeah. I feel like it never gets old. It's always free. It's just
Yes.
it's the most healing, like you said, place. And but yeah, specifically the Santa Monica Pier at night, to be specific. That's like
Beautiful.
my
Yeah, been
go-to.
there at night.
Yeah, because just the Ferris wheel is lit up, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've just had a lot of great memories there. I filmed one of the interviews for the Freeze, the for Freeze at that location. So it just is, it's a good one. It's a good spot.
No, it
Uh,
is.
and I like to explore thrift shops and fun kind of boutique lunch places out in Silver Lake Echo Park, like the annoying hipster that I am. I feel like
Oh
it's
man,
so
I love it.
annoying and bougie to say, but I really am living that life right now and just
This is
embracing
great.
it all. But yeah.
No, you living your life like it's golden. Hey
Uh,
Alexa, play Jill
well,
Scott.
Thank you. We
is
need
your
her
life.
here. Yes, that song will be timeless forever.
So I mean, literally taking your freedom, that's basically the heart of the question because
Taking it off the shelf.
we
And
literally about to,
I-
it's like we're on that game show. What is it about the
yeah.
lyrics or whatever? We won't break out in song because I don't want Jill to come after me.
She,
Miss Scott, excuse me, like I'm on
um,
first name basis.
you can't take a shower, girl.
But it has can you describe like in one way it has an effect after you go out and live life in the ways you like? Do you feel the effect later in your creative when you're back in the creative space?
Yeah, I think I feel like it's definitely about balance and being kind of rejuvenated from like living your life and having experiences and then being able to write about it and finding the balance that way. You know, you can't just be in your head forever, just, you know, writing down your thoughts and not sharing it with anyone. I mean, you can do that, but um there is value in being able to write down your experiences and share it with the world. But um but to answer your question, like what do I get more like do I want to be out in the world more because of these or what are you
Oh,
asking?
like I guess do you feel like when you are back on set or when you're writing or acting or producing or anything, does it, I
Uh,
think you kind of meant answered because you mentioned balance.
mhm.
um Having lived a full life, like you aren't living in your notebook, you're not living on you're not a workaholic basically, because that can happen. Everyone's situation is different, you got to pay the bills, whatever.
Yeah.
You're getting called all the time, you're spending 12, 14-hour days on set, but it's not healthy to do. Like, you got to go to the beach, you got to go to a dinner party, Santa Monica, you know what I mean? And so I guess that's what I meant. You do, it sounds like you do feel the effect of, I am well rounded, I'm spending time with my loved ones, with myself,
Uh-huh.
and I guess it just works to get. Am I putting words in your mouth?
Yeah.
Does it make
Yeah, that's
sense?
a great point. Yeah, and that does make sense. Oops. And that's a good question because I was gonna say that I have been incredibly blessed to be on shows that have traveled or that
That's
required
awesome.
a level of traveling. Yeah, that has been like one of the luckiest and most the biggest blessings I can say because I would not have been able to do that type of traveling had it not been for my um, employment on those shows. Um,
Nice.
so yeah,
That
back
was one of
in
my questions, actually.
oh really?
Yes, has film allowed you to travel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
back in 2018, I started working on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and um, I started as a PA. And a couple months in, we had our first trip to Bali, and
Wow.
I got a chance to go to Bali in October, and it was a dream. And I just was like, oh
Wow.
my god, I'm in Bali! Like this is wild. And I was able to travel a lot more after that. I mean, I went to Finland and Turks and Caicos and uh gosh, where else? Cleveland. And I mean, just kind of exploring their home, just being in the realm of like Calabasas and stuff. It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, I have just been able to travel and kind of live just from working. So I
Hmm.
kind of like working has been like the way I've just lived and had fun, you know, with things. So if that
Yeah. That
answers
is great. My girl went to Bali. She was on planes getting these frequent flyer miles because some people don't, they don't get to do that. Go to other states, go to other countries. Better yet, you know. That leads me to this question here. Did you have any favorite Insecure memories? What memories working
oh,
on Insecure? And I ask that because it doesn't have to be travel related, but one of my favorites beyond meeting you and meeting our amazing like team You know, it
Yeah.
was, as someone who was new to LA, it was
Mhm.
exhausting. It could be, but we went to
Yeah.
like, um, where did we go? Lamert Park. We went to Stanford University. We went to
Mhm.
different areas, especially black areas of Los
Exactly.
Angeles. And then post that show, I was like, I'd go past those places, or I'd remember those streets, or we'd pass that shoe shop or what, or that restaurant. I was like, thanks to Insecure and working on this show, I have a better sense for the city.
That's a great point. Yeah, absolutely. And that is what that type of storytelling does, depending on what you want to write about. It's like, okay, now we can see this world. We can take a trip to this world and be able to depict it um for our viewers. But I mean, God, being on Insecure was just such a dream just by itself because of being in Issa Rae's orbit. I felt like
Mm-hmm.
just being around her, and um her story is so inspiring to me, just where she started with Awkward Black Girl, and um just how again she just stuck to her truth and wrote what was authentic to her and put it out there, and people gravitated towards it. And you know us being there was a direct result of that, of her just following her truth, of her just sticking to what she knows. And I mean, she's such a powerhouse, like just being in her presence, like
Right. Yeah, she
she's just
is.
so focused and poised. And um I mean, just being around a Black woman who is that successful and powerful was inspiring and motivating. And I mean, the whole cast, just to be around them and to like be on a successful Black show that people respect and admire, and especially being on the last season of a show like that was very
Exactly.
special, because it's like, oh, we're never gonna, this is the last time we could have ever been a part of something
Very
like this.
emotional. Yeah.
Yeah. So seeing all of the other filmmakers that came together because of Insecure, and like the group chat that we have now,
Mm-hmm.
or that everybody, has been a part of, sharing like opportunities with each other.
Yes.
Like, I thought that was the coolest part, that being on Insecure created that other small community,
Yeah.
and lifted us up together, because we're doing this, like
Mm-hmm.
literally
Right.
without Issa Rae, we would not be here
Right.
having this talk.
It's true though.
So I feel like, um, again, it all just starts with writing about your truth and putting it out there. And you don't know what's going to come of it, but obviously a lot of positive things came from her doing that. So I think that was the biggest thing I took from Insecure. And obviously meeting Gary K, which led me to AFV.
The Effie, yep.
But but
And
yeah.
landed me on I got to be on that because you remember my work ethic. Landed me on
Yep.
Insecure. He was like, have you heard of this show called Insecure? And I was and inside I was like, yes, I've like, but I was like, no, yeah, no, I'm a big fan. I really
Kept it cool. Kept it chill. Yeah.
I kept it chill, but yeah, yeah, people, yeah, higher ups remember you over and over, and it's yeah. So I'm grateful for him, and
For sure.
him having that eye, and I'm like, wow, I got to have those experiences because somebody who didn't a friend recommended me that job, Fox Soul, and then that's where I met him, and he took a
Yep. And he
chance
knows.
and threw my name threw put my name in the hat.
Yeah, which is a huge compliment because he knows his his stuff. You don't play.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, yeah, it's really rewarding when people that are in those places can recognize you and elevate you, and just give you a shot to have your own platform. So um
Awesome. So yeah, those memories of Insecure.
yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned also that yes, it was the final season, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
let God God. because
Exactly. Let
because
go and let God. Yep.
because sis, like I remember like my best friend, you know, shout out to you, Marcus. He's a friend of the podcast. We did like the you know how Issa would do the contests
Yeah.
for
Uh,
PAs, and he and I totally did that. We had so much fun. Like we didn't get selected, but then to fast forward a year and a half, 2 years to me living in Los Angeles,
mhm.
and then like getting on it. Like I remember when they were filming season 4, I think, or was it already season 5? I'm trying to remember. But there was a notice on my condo that there was
Uh,
filming, and I think it did say Insecure on it. And
that came so cool.
I was like, what? And they filmed like, oh, it was season 4. Yeah, because they were at Pan's. You know that restaurant, right? On I think it's on La Cienega.
I have
It's
been
super
there.
popular. Everyone films there. It's
Okay.
got like the red, like really nice red seating, and it's kind of got that 50s, 60s sort of style, and it's got like a lot of greenery and whatnot. It's everyone uses it.
Okay.
But I think it's on
Sure.
like La Cienega and the La Tijera or something.
Okay. God, I'm an LA native and all these places still.
No, it's
This is
okay.
proof that I live under a rock.
I know,
This
right?
is where it comes out. Yeah.
But they were filming that when Issa and Molly were like starting to try to reconcile. So I think that was season 4, I
Okay.
believe. But that was cool to see that, and then to fast forward to 2021, filming the final season. I
Right?
was like, wow, God waited till like the last minute
Yep.
to afford me this wonderful opportunity, and just you know, and like you said, like I love seeing the opportunities in our thread that's still going strong, and just trying to pay it forward, you know, and help people out. And it's just and you know what, to that, is there anything you'd like to like demystify or share additionally about networking, especially as a black filmmaker or black creative?
I think that there is a common fear that people are just networking to leech or get something out of you, and that there's this kind of duplicitous nature to relationships in Los Angeles, and you don't really know what people's intentions are because it's just there's a lot of people trying to get the same things, and so building genuine connections. um, I think people assume that you can't build genuine connections in this industry, and I would beg to differ because I think that you absolutely can. It just takes time, like all relationships do,
Yeah.
to really see what someone's about and to see what their intentions actually are. And only time can tell that. But I think that making friendships and true connections is essential to being successful in this industry, because you cannot do it alone. um you just you it's impossible, I believe, to really be like successful in Hollywood by yourself. um
Say that. Where
yeah,
they do that at?
yeah, because I haven't heard of anyone that
Me
literally,
either.
just walked into, to doors without somebody else opening it for them,
Right.
or meeting somebody or having someone take a chance on them. Um, so networking is inherent and it's essential and it's necessary in our industry, and it has to be done in order for projects to get made, in order to refer people to, to someone else who might need like a great PA or a great cinematographer or a great editor, like saying like, oh, I know this person, I loved working with them on this, like let me give you their contact info. Like that's networking without really having like an ulterior motive, or like trying to use that person for something, and
Right.
helping
Right.
them build their career and also helping you to build yours. So there can be this win-win approach, I think, to creating, especially now in the world that we live in with just with streaming. There's so many platforms to create, and it's not like one person has to take this job from another person in order to be successful. Like,
Right.
like my friend could be a coordinator on this show, and I could be a coordinator on a different show, and we're both making the same
Yeah.
bag and able to, like, go to lunch together too. So I feel
Yeah.
like that is something that I would like to demystify. But also, not everybody is your friend,
That is true.
especially especially if you're Black. Just because someone else is Black too doesn't mean that they're in your corner, doesn't mean that they care about you or want to see you win. A lot of the
Yes.
times it's the opposite, and I had to learn that the hard way, just kind of assuming like, oh, this is a sister, she gets it, she knows. Like,
Oh,
I've
snap. For real.
fallen into that trap a lot of times where I've just been like, oh, he's a brother, he gonna get it, but no.
Yeah.
So
All skin
yeah.
folk ain't kin folk.
Hmm.
And some like to be the only one. Alas. Some, emphasis on some, not all.
But you will come across those personalities, and just to be mindful,
But you
um,
bounce back, which is good.
you have to, I feel, in order to survive this industry, because I don't know, it will eat you alive, I think, if you don't have a hold of, like, your purpose, like being in uh of wanting to make films, or just being a creative in general. Like, you
Hmm.
have to know why you're here.
Yeah.
I think you can't just be kind of led by other people and their agenda or their intention for you.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I yeah, that's a big thing I would emphasize, is just um I think we should support each other at any and every opportunity that we can, but also have discernment about who you're supporting, you know.
Okay. That's well put. That's great. Because I like how you said before, you put the positive first because you're like your homegirl could be a coordinator on one show, you could be the coordinator on another. You get in the same bag, but you can still go to lunch together. You're not. There is still that myth that yeah, if someone else gets ahead of me, I'll
Yeah.
miss out. I
Yeah.
think we talked about this earlier in the episode and or off mic about how at first it was bittersweet for me to pass jobs along. My situation was a little bit different than most, though, because I spent some time in LA in this industry, and then I'm venturing in Africa now and meeting creatives and wanting to meet filmmakers and things. So that everyone doesn't do that, but that was part of the bittersweetness because I was like, I already wanted to leave, but I'm still saying no to something. I'm literally not in Los Angeles. Um, Arguably the mecca, though, of cinema, though things are cropping up more and more in the United States, better yet around the world, thank God.
Mhm.
There are more avenues,
Yeah.
but I began, the sweetness became being able to pay it forward. Like, I'm not losing out just because I had to say no, whether it's because I'm traveling or whether it's because I was in LA. And maybe
Right.
there was just a conflict because I was on another shit. Like, I when I was on Blackish, someone wanted to put me on Snowfall. But I could, I love that show and I want to be a part of it. but
Yes. Yeah.
but I was committed to, this one show already, and it was in line with what I was doing at the time and what I needed and everything. But you try to recommend people and you can develop that high in a good way of like, yo, who can I put on next?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, who can I elevate next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we need to talk about that more if we aren't like, there's,
Absolutely.
it really does feel good if you have that in your heart that there is abundance out
Yes.
here
Yeah.
that you can bless somebody else. you know,
And bless your
and
in this, sorry to
say,
cut you off.
no, it's okay. Would you repeat that?
But and also bless somebody else too. I mean, but like it goes both ways. Um, you know,
It's like
if
cyclical.
you're exactly, yeah. I mean, I really do believe that, and I feel that just because filmmaking is a collaborative art form, it only behooves you to elevate the person that you're working with,
Yeah.
because in turn you elevate your own work and theirs. And um yeah, I mean, there are creatives that just can go places that I can't go, or that can see different
Right.
sides of the story that I can't see, or who can bring different elements to a world that I don't have a perspective of. And um yeah, I think it's important to recognize that.
That's great. Well, not a little thing, but a follow up. Would you mind speaking on? You mentioned the Freeze program.
Yeah.
Would you mind speaking on what that is, how you got involved in it, and is there anything you can add to encourage people about film programs? Because you and I are living in a time, we're living in a time with the listeners where, especially if you black or a person of color,
Yep.
there's writing fellowships and grants and over in programs cropping up way more, both in person and virtual, than
1,000%.
ever. It's an amazing time to be a black filmmaker or a person of color who's making film.
It really is. Yeah. We are in a renaissance time, and the prime period to be seen and to be heard and to be supported uh, in so many different ways. And I think that so I know that you kind of, there were a few things to that, but
Oh,
do you,
sorry
are
about
you,
that.
no, all good, but uh
Would you mind speaking to what Freeze was and just your experience with that? And then was there anything you thought you could add to just programs that you know are very beneficial, whether you were in them or
mhm.
maybe a friend was, and you're like, guys, you should check this out. The resources are available.
Right. So Freeze, to begin with, was a we were the first filmmakers who had been uh included. Okay, well, actually I'll take it a step back. So there was an open call throughout Los Angeles to find 10 filmmakers to create a short film of their experience in LA, or their perspective of LA, just to kind of recap a little bit. And the Freeze Festival has been known as predominantly a fine arts fair that is uh, embraced and just supported very huge artists. I mean, it's like, it's a very big fair, but they wanted to expand it to film. And so we were the first group that they included as like kind of the film segment. And our films were screened at the Paramount Theater during the Freeze Fair. And so all of us had to apply, and myself and the 9 other fellowship uh, filmmakers were selected. And there was a prize, and it was granted to Sylvia Lara, who if anyone does look up the Freeze Art Fair, you will see her film in all of our films
Nice.
on the Freeze. Um, and I can share a link if that's helpful, if anyone wants to see it.
Yeah, I'll link everything, guys.
But yeah, no, we that Freeze was partnering with Deutsche Bank and the Ghetto Film School to put
Okay.
this program together. And there were so many minds on that to just have our voices as Black and Brown creatives. I mean, not just Black and Brown, but just um, as underrepresented creatives,
Gotcha.
rather. Uh, and just the intent was to give us a a platform and to give us an audience and to give us that experience and to give us connections. And I feel like I'm rambling a little bit because I'm trying to get around to the fact that like I feel the biggest value of that was seeing that people are taking action to give underrepresented voices a platform and really being a part of that in motion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because we hear about it a lot where people are like, oh, we need to put we need to put Black and brown folk behind the camera, we need to get representation, we need to do
Yeah.
this and that. And then you still see cis white men and just continuing to be in those roles.
Right.
And I think that when you see people like Deutsche Bank and Ghetto Film School and Freeze that are taking action to give us a platform and to give us a voice, it's encouraging,
Yeah.
to know that action is being taken.
Very much so.
And that there are a lot of other programs that are trying to do that for other filmmakers, which is why I encourage people who are on the come up or who are trying to develop their body of work to apply to fellowships or to those programs, because we did receive a prompt through from being in the program.
Nice.
The prompt of share an experience about being in LA, because the program offered that prompt. We were able to create something for that. And I think that fellowships kind of can involve like workshopping, or they encourage you to find your voice. They encourage you to create, to build your work and to be seen, like if that makes sense.
No, it does. And this is where a Hollywood party came in. This was that project.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. So yeah, that's exactly my point of just by putting yourself out there to do fellowships, it might spark you to create an idea or create a story that could be useful for something else, or that could, turn on a light bulb for another separate project, or even create a new connection with another filmmaker. Because just by being in that program, I made so many new friends and got to know about so many other filmmakers and their styles and their approaches just from being in that environment. So I think that, the word is in fellowship, it is about fellowship.
Exactly. That's what it's about.
Really, yeah, it's in the name. So I think that especially if you're just coming out to LA and you're not from here, the number one thing is finding your tribe, or finding the people that you resonate with, or finding your group, and or your fellowship, seeking that out. Also, I feel that it is Hollywood is a numbers game. I mean, it is a lot about personality and stuff, but if you really want something bad enough, you can apply to things, or there are so many networks on Facebook, like Facebook groups that have like production assistant gigs, or just or independent projects that need a production designer or an editor. And that's also a way to get your foot in the door if you don't have a degree per se, or have connections from school. And again, just like building from being on set, so I think that there's a way people can like approach, again, networking without it being like
awkward and sleazy and
weird. Yeah, because like you're on set, you're naturally going to talk to people and just ask them about what they do, and vice versa. And like that is the natural way to network. It's not like you have to have some kind of like agenda.
No, you really don't.
Hey, what's your name? Yeah, but
that's great. And I like how you mentioned Facebook, and because I think of social media like Twitter, film Twitter is a big thing.
Yeah.
especially for writers or people. I love on Twitter when people share like, you know, 4 stills from their film or their
Yeah.
lookbook, and
Hmm.
maybe they link their GoFundMe if they're crowdsourcing, or their website if you want to learn more. Instagram, like,
Yeah.
you know, our friend Jasmine from Black Filmmaker, you know,
Mhm.
or like Shanae from Damn Right Originals, or like maybe
Mhm.
Strong Black Lead, like, you know, those women. Shout out to those women because they're friend of the
Yeah.
podcast as well. But they like are part of writing labels or studios or companies that also like regularly reel out like opportunities like in their
Yeah.
stories or in their grid, you know, or in the cut LA, Ray Benjamin. Not only is she sharing um, her resources, but also when she hears things, you know, this project is looking to cast extras,
Yeah.
or this project is holding auditions, or
Yeah.
this project is looking for an AD, etc. Social
Mhm.
media and things are playing a
Yeah.
really important role for filmmaking, especially for Black filmmakers as well, where you can find things, and it's just a great time. There's just a lot.
It really is a great time to be Black and to be a Black filmmaker. I
Say it
mean,
again.
to put
Yes.
it plainly, um, or and to be brown, you know, to
Yeah.
be a Latinx filmmaker too, and just to have, I mean, just so much like we have social media, so we
Yeah.
can have our own platforms and
Hmm.
have just like raw, uncut, unedited expression of who it is we are, incredibly fabricated and edited expressions of who we are, but regardless, like social media is still a place for you to have your own, you can build your own empire, you know,
Yeah.
like we are in, you know, the time of just, I mean, internet and thing in being able to be an entrepreneur
Yeah.
and realistically being able to make a living as an entrepreneur, and you know, it not being like a pipe dream, because we
Yeah.
see so many people being able to sustain. So I'm glad you brought up social media, because that's always a like a weird, um it's just a, I have a hard time with it because I think that
Sure.
it kills creativity so much, because
It's
you're always
true.
comparing yourself to everybody, or like,
That's the negative side, the dark side of it. Yeah.
exactly,
No, I
yeah,
feel
and
you.
you can't avoid it because that is what it's for, designed for, you
Right.
know, to post your stuff and to get, you know, likes or shares or like validation from
Hmm.
other people based off of something you think is like your best work or your best self, and it's like if people don't like that, then you know, what does it mean about you? And it, and just I feel, I just think that that is so toxic to creatives,
Yeah.
because you don't know, uh you just, you don't know what moves people, even if it's something is like, even if something has 5 likes, you don't know if someone was like just so deeply impacted by what you wrote or what you posted, you know. Um and I just think that there's this kind of like illusion that you're not important because if you don't have a lot of followers, or if you do, it's, you know, art has kind of like been confused, I think, with like fame or notoriety, or like,
Yeah.
you know, the clout of it.
Yeah.
um but again, as you were saying, it's also an incredible market, or it's a great way to get yourself out there and to network with people or to see what other people are doing, and there's pros and cons to it. So
You just got to stay balanced and know your why, know your purpose.
it's, yeah, because social
Yeah.
media is here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, because I want to get to a place. I've said this to other friends where I don't need it. I mean, I don't really need it now, actually,
Yeah.
but I want it to like be a place that's fun. Like I recently, or well, actually not that recent. It was like over 6 months ago, but like I changed like my Instagram up where I used to have a lot of book and film related things, and I have a few of those. And then I just wanted to try something different, and so now suddenly I'm taking more selfies, or friends and family are taking selfies, and I kind of like them. They're kind of like, oh, because I'm doing different things, and I mean also now I'm here in a new country,
Right.
so the photos are just a little bit more interesting. Or not that I wasn't taking extreme ones in LA, but it's like it's just living life, and it's like, well, that's what
What,
stories are for. If I'm on a film set or I'm doing something creative, I can still share it. It's just different, but I wanted it to be fun and organic. Back when it first came out, when it was just you and your friends.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and so no, so you're right, and you just got to keep that balance. And I do notice I like that about yourself as well, where you're off living life. You're not in stories all the time. You're not always posting. Or when you do center it on like like movies you're watching or something that was kind of resonant, artistically, and then you kind of head off and we see you when we see you.
I mean, pretty much, because we all got to live our lives. We got to be out here. I mean, which is why I kind of have set up my Instagram the way that I have, just with kind of with the films. I don't know if anyone has visited my Instagram, but I have a lot of films that are in the center of
Yeah.
the grid, and they are photos of DVDs that I've taken, just that I own, and that were just hand-me-downs. And it was something that I wanted to start building to create conversations around films that other people have seen, or just to
Yeah.
create something bigger than myself on Instagram, because I do feel like that is what Instagram is about, but it is also about community and being able to connect. Um, and what better way to connect than movies and film, which is another reason why I'm a director,
Yeah.
because I think that you can break the ice and really cross cultures, generations, um, political views sometimes, because of a commonality or a common love for a film
Yeah.
or for a TV show. And at the core of it, I think that is the beauty of cinema, honestly.
Nice. In fact, where can people follow you online? Your Instagram, website, reel, etc.
Thank you for asking. My website is torynseabrooks.com. My Instagram is linked to that, but my Instagram is also just at Toryn Seabrooks. And I need to post more. I'm kind of a ghost on both of those platforms. So when I say follow me, it's kind of just a little thumbnail, I guess, because I'm still
Yeah.
working on posting more consistently.
Cool.
But those are the places.
Sweet. Phew, Torrin, this has been great. You've given me a
Thank you.
lot. You're welcome. A lot of time. Thank you, every one of you hung with us this long. Big,
Great.
big thank you. I hope you got something out of it. To something you just said, can you close us out, Torrin, with what do you love most about cinema?
That it is a vessel to tell one's truth, whatever that truth is. And it is a medium to share with other people. I mean, I'll just leave it at that. It is a vessel to share the truth.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, I hope you got you some truth in this episode. I hope you guys are watching movies, reading scripts, just fun and watch what you want to watch. I still you still hear this stuff about is Marvel messing up cinema and Hollywood, and is this, and just watch what you want to watch, get inspired by what you want to get inspired by. I hope you really got some gems out of Torrin's story. out of her own lessons, gems people have given her, and I hope that you can find overlap for your own cinematic journey. Definitely, of course, speaking to the black and brown filmmakers and storytellers out there. I do this for you guys, and I'm just really grateful that Toryn said yes, and wanted to share. And guys, go follow her, check her out. She's going to post again. Don't worry about it, because you need to check out her films as well. Watermelon, um, A Hollywood Party, Dana, and who knows what else she's got in the pipeline. Well, we know she's working on a little bit of a fusion of Watermelon and A Hollywood Party. Really, really excited to see that come to life in the near future. Um, yeah, thank you so much, Torrin. This has been great.
Thank you, Josiah, for giving filmmakers like myself a platform and a space to be heard. It's
You're
very,
welcome.
very appreciated.
You're welcome. Guys, if you really
And
enjoyed this, subscribe and tune in because we've got more coming, okay? Go check out Torrent. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
bye-bye.